It's Tuesday, year of our Lord 2023, Tuesday, February 7th. Man, it's going fast, 2023. We're about to get started in a new lecture and personal finance. I'm Jim Munchback. If you don't know, if you happen to see this stream it's on our page at missionalmoney.com and also moneystudygroup.com. If you're a member of our cohort at the University of Houston, personal finance, this is for you. I'm going to jump over and start the Zoom room now. Looks like we have some folks waiting, so I'm going to try to figure out which screen I have that's always a problem. I have too many screens. So I'm going to admit everyone into the Zoom room. Welcome if you're a student joining us on the Zoom room, in the Zoom room. Welcome to another lesson, another lecture in personal finance. I'm getting my screen arranged so I can see your names, and some of you even show me your faces, but generally not so much. Welcome, good morning. Hope you had a great weekend, a great week. If someone could please give me a sound check. Can you hear me? You can chat that in, or you can. Thank you very much, Christian. I appreciate that. Awesome. So I'm going to open the chat box. As usual, if you will, please just type in your name and the time that you joined the Zoom room. I'll have a record of your attendance if you do that for me, and that might be helpful for you. So today we're going to talk about first memories of money. I have a new setup on my screen. It's not that new, but it's a little different. I'm using multiple screens, trying to use the technology, but it means I have to turn my head a lot. Sorry about that. So how's everybody doing? Chat in. Tell me chat in the time that you joined so that we have that as a record. But then if you have any questions or comments, we have a couple of minutes before we officially start. So please leave your comment. I have a couple of questions from students that I wanted to answer, and I will try to do that. But I'm hoping that those students who have questions will jump in and ask those questions in the Zoom room. Tashay has a question I'm going to answer today. Tashay is not going to be able to be with us today. It looks like I don't see Tashay. I'm looking. So this is an asynchronous course, as you all know, which means you don't have to be at this particular Zoom meeting. It is being live streamed to Facebook and the YouTube. So you can watch this later. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, please leave a comment. Let me know you're watching. And as we go through today's lesson, today's lecture, as always, if you hear something that you want to comment on, I appreciate it. I always see your comments. I don't always reply to them, but I see them. They pop up on my phone. And whether it's in YouTube or Facebook, feel free to do that. So as always, this video, this being live streamed to your playlist at Money Study Group, and you should be able to find that. If you go to missionalmoney.com, that's kind of the main site I post these lessons to. If you go there, you'll see this little button for YouTube, and that should take you to this semester's playlist. So it should be very easy for you to find. And if you are not here live, that's where you'll find the video on demand for the asynchronous course. Okay, we're going to start in just a couple minutes. We're going to talk about first memories of money. We're going to review last week's assignment. This week's assignment has been posted, so it's in Blackboard. You're welcome to open that up, take a look at it, and just be familiar with the instructions in Blackboard. If you have questions about that assignment, it's really helpful if you ask them now during this meeting. So I started last week posting your assignments early before class so that you can see them, so that if you have questions, you can ask those questions. Now, if you're one of those students that likes to wait until the very last minute, then that won't benefit you a whole lot, because if you ask a question at 10 p.m. on Monday night, chances are you're not going to get an answer, at least not from me. Hopefully, you're getting your questions answered in GroupMe. How's that going anyway? For those of you who are here, and if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, just give me a comment. Help me understand, how is GroupMe going this semester? Are you asking questions? Are you answering questions? Are you participating in GroupMe? That's not the official class collaboration screenshot comment for this week, but you're welcome to use it in place of this week's class collaboration official screenshot. So that's the question I'm asking you today on Tuesday, 7th of February, year of our Lord 2023. How's GroupMe going for you? Are you a student who's asking questions in GroupMe? And if you are you getting some questions answered? Is it helpful? And are you a student, or I should say, are you a student? Maybe both. Maybe you're a student who asks questions in GroupMe, and maybe you're a student who likes to help out and provide some direction for other students who have questions. And maybe you're both. Maybe you ask questions and answer questions. That would be somewhat unusual, I guess. But at any rate, let me know. What do you think? How do you feel about GroupMe this semester? Is it a resource? Is it helpful? It's going well. I appreciate that, Maritza. I always think I mess up your name. I'm not sure if I say it right. But anyway, it's going well. I'm mostly asking questions, and it helps to get answers from my classmates. Awesome. You know, I haven't even jumped into GroupMe this semester to see how it's going. So I try to make that space available for you. And I feel like I'm spying on you when I jump in there, so I don't do that. Good to hear you're answering questions, Vivian. Thank you for that. It's been very resourceful. Aniha says, I've answered and asked questions. Good for you. Way to go. Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. That's why we have GroupMe. Typically in the beginning of the semester, I ask you if you have any suggestions for another tool that we might use for that purpose. But glad to hear it's going well. If there's any questions you're not getting answered in GroupMe, again, feel free to reach out to me either by text message or email. Text messages get my attention more quickly. They come right to my phone, and I just I see them more regularly. So again, if you're asking me a question that you have, excuse me, have not asked in GroupMe, if it's a question that, basically most questions should be asked in GroupMe first. Okay, so I'm still getting a lot of questions. I'm not getting overwhelmed with questions, but you won't get a quick answer from me if it's a question that really should be in GroupMe. So I'm assuming that you're asking in GroupMe in addition to sending me an email. Some of the questions I get are not really, they should be answered in GroupMe. So thanks for that. Most of you are doing an awesome job. I appreciate it. Let's get started. So it's 10:09 a.m. We're going to talk about last week's assignment, which was the credit report. Let me pull that up real quick. So you guys did a great job on this. Last week's assignment was really the credit report, and I asked everybody to give me this budget screenshot. So if you didn't give me this screen from your financial plan, that was one of the components of last week's lesson, assignment, I should say. This is where your financial plan is acknowledging the expenses that you have in your life. And remember, I'm asking you to think about all of the expenses in your life, even if you are not actually spending the money. So for example, if you're living at home and you're not paying the utility bills, you're not paying for the Wi-Fi, you're not paying for your phone, you're not paying for your car insurance, you're not paying for your meals, your food, the groceries, I want you to do some research and figure out what is the cost for all of those things. And they go here. And you can add categories as well. So take advantage of your planning portal at Bayrock, designed by Bayrock and Right Capital. This is the tool that we're using this semester for you to create your financial plan. And this screen demonstrates your expenses. That's what this screen is. This is your pre-retirement expenses, living expenses. So I pay attention to this because this is what your plan, this is where you tell your plan how many expenses you have. So it's really important whether you're a student at the University of Houston or you're an actual client or you're someone who's taking advantage of the opportunity to, for a very small amount of money, build a financial plan along with us in this cohort this semester. This is a very important screen. You can create a budget with any tool you wanted to. That was not, you didn't have to use, hold on. I got something popping up on my screen. You don't have to use the Bayrock Right Capital component to create your budget. If you want to do that with mint.com, with any tool you want, you're welcome to do that. But you do need to include this. Just take that information and put it into this screen. And if you don't know how to do that, that's a great question for GroupMe, because we covered it pretty well. So then your free credit report, most of you were able to do that last week, and that was cool. It's a pretty helpful assignment, really, to take a look at your credit report. So you learned last week about FICO scores and how those scores are created, what goes into those FICO scores. But you also learned that the difference between a credit score and a credit report, big difference. The report is where you find the data that the credit bureaus, the credit industry, all of the data that they have about you shows up on your credit report. So it's important for you, it's important for everyone, consumers, to check their credit report on a regular basis. You can do that 3 times a year for free, and there was a link in last week's assignment to do that. And you did it. Most of you did it, and you did a great job, and I appreciate it. Some of you, many of you, probably most of you, sent me the PDF of your credit report, which was fine. That's typically easier than, taking screenshots or whatever. I deleted those. I looked at them just to confirm that you did do your credit report. But mostly, I was hoping you would tell me what you learned in the process of doing your credit report. It should be a very informative, educational experience for you, and it was for most of you. And so that was part of the assignment, was just to tell me what you learned. But also, a little hidden gem in that assignment is you had the opportunity to identify things that you may have been surprised by on your credit report. And that happens on a regular basis. Some of you have parents who set up an account in your name and they're paying the account and you didn't know it. It's a good thing, it's good for you to know. I'm not saying they did a no-no, but it's good for you to know what's on your credit report. So hopefully you'll take advantage of that opportunity moving forward in your life to do credit reports, free online credit reports. Many of you did that through your bank. That's fine. Some of you did the FICO score and you got deduction on your assignment. Because this assignment, I didn't really want to know what your credit score was. I wanted to know that you were able to obtain your credit report. So again, that was a big distinction. Okay, and then the list of creditors, of course, hopefully that was helpful. Most of you, it looks like you just grabbed a screenshot of where you already had a list of your creditors with who you owed money to, how much you owed, when you have to start paying it back, and what the interest rate was. And that was helpful. Hopefully that was helpful for you. Obviously, I don't need to know that. But that information will eventually, soon, be going into your actual financial plan. So all of your debts, all of your creditors, those accounts will need to be, reflected in your financial plan if you want to have an accurate and complete comprehensive financial plan. It's part of the process we do with every client who asks us to help them create a financial plan. We have to put all the pieces into the plan, including assets and liabilities and cash flow, income and expenses, so insurance as well. So you'll be doing that throughout the semester, adding data cards. We call them data cards. Each of those debts would be a separate data card with its own creditor name, the amount that you owe, the interest rate that you owe, how much your payment is. All of that goes into that data card. And so you'll be building that into your plan as we go forward. So keep it handy, keep that list handy. And then basically we just kind of, I try to almost every week remind you that we have a capstone assignment at the end of the semester. We don't have a final exam. And so every assignment that you do each week that has anything to do with your financial plan, each of those assignments, each of those elements go right into your capstone assignment at the end of the semester. So looks like I'm getting a call. I don't know who that was, but obviously they were on my blocked list. I think I know who it was, but I'm not even going to say because that would be too much information. But anyway, sorry about that. So yeah, the capstone assignment is going to take each piece that you build along the way. By the way, I'm going to turn my phone off so that we don't get another one of those. So yeah, the capstone assignment is really going to be easy for those of you who are following along and keeping up in the course. So that we'll review that multiple times throughout the semester. I hope you guys are getting some of you are uploading multiple documents, a very small number. I just want to mention it. If you have screenshots or multiple files, please combine them all into a PDF. If you don't know how to do that, as a college student in a business college, you should learn how to do that. That's not really part of the scope of this course, but it is something that you need to know how to do. So if you're sending me multiple files, I just give you a 0 and tell you, look at the last line in the assignment, please submit one PDF file. So if you're getting that comment from me, that's why. Again, there's that detailed worksheet. Each of you should have that or should have had that. All right, that's it for the review from last week. Now let's talk about, if you got any questions, chime in, chat in. Any questions at this point? I appreciate all your comments about GroupMe. I didn't read all of them. I'm assuming you guys can all see these because they say that the chat is to everyone. But overall, I don't see anyone suggesting that we change resources or that GroupMe is not serving its purpose. So that's good news. Okay, let's talk about this week's assignment. It's really not, it's a very easy assignment. First, memories of money. So let me just give you a little background. As a financial planner, as a financial advisor, I'm a certified financial planner. I went for a walk this morning and I wore my Dr. Phil cap, baseball cap. I don't know why. I have a whole bunch of baseball caps, and when I go for my walk, I usually put a cap on my head, and this morning it happened to be my Dr. Phil cap, which was weird. Okay, looks like I lost. I don't know what just happened. Looks like I lost the connection. Are you guys still there on? Yeah, it looks like I lost the connection. I'm muted now. Okay, hold on. Give me a minute. Don't know what happened. Okay, I'm not sure what just happened. My screen just went blank, and I'm assuming you can't hear me. Can you hear me now? Anyone? Are you still there? Okay, thank you. I saw that thumbs up. I don't know what happened, but my screen just went blank. Did not lose power. Technology, it's always a challenge. Thanks. It looks like Zoom shut down and I lost the chat which is not a big deal, but everything you chatted in before is gone, so I'm not seeing it. But you're hearing me. It looks like you're seeing me. It looks like I'm still broadcasting, so we'll just keep going. I'll start over my little story. Uh, I should probably not talk about my Dr. Phil cap because that caused everything to go crazy. Anyway, my friends call me Dr. Phil of financial planning because I ask a lot of weird questions. I don't know about weird, but different kinds of questions in the financial planning process. One of the questions that I learned to ask from my mentor, a guy named Rich Basillo, many, many years ago, I was at a residency program being taught by certified financial planners, people who had a lot of experience as financial planners were teaching those of us who were newly branded certified financial planner professionals. And I was one of those. I passed the exam. I had all of the credentials I needed to be called and to, portray the marks of a certified financial planner, which is really a big deal in our business and our industry. So even though I was a certified financial planner, I didn't have a lot of experience. And so I went to this residency program. It was a week-long mentoring program by the Financial Planning Association. And this guy, Rich Basillo, I tell his story, the story about him in each of my books because he had such a big impact in my life. And one of the ways he did was he told us the questions that he asked his clients, his new clients, as he was beginning the financial planning process. And one of the questions he asked, which he shared with us, which I've asked to just about everyone I've ever met with in the first meeting, is tell me about your first memories of money. Maybe it was when you were young and it was your first job or, your first paycheck. Maybe it was when you lost a tooth and you put it under your pillow and the tooth fairy left some money under your pillow. Maybe your first memory of money is when, when you were having your birthdays when you were young and someone gave your whole family gave you money. So that's kind of the question, your first memories about money. And what happens when I ask that question, and it may be happening with you right now, is you start to think back to that first memory of money and you start to experience some of the, joy or fascination with money or just whatever it was that you experienced when you rediscover or recall your first memory of money. And maybe it was holding a bunch of quarters in your hands or dollar bills, or maybe it was the paycheck that you got from your employer that you deposited in the bank. I don't know. I never have any idea what the answer is going to be. But I've had such a wide range of answers, like things like I remember working, doing jobs around the house for my mom because she was giving me allowance money to do different things. Or my family had a store and I worked in the store and I got paid, $1.50 a day or whatever. It's just so many stories I've heard. And this week I'm going to ask you to tell me your story. So it's one of my favorite assignments because I get to read not only your stories about your first memories about money. That's cool. That's always interesting. But because you're so young, look, I'm kind of old. It's not as fascinating generally when you ask a young person that question as it is when you ask an older person that question. And I'm not even going to begin to tell you, put my Dr. Phil hat on, and I could tell you, because I've been trained in psychology and sociology, I could tell you some of the reasons why it's just a deeper question generally for an older person than a younger person. For one reason, you go way back to your first memories of money. If you're my age, I'm 60. I'll be 61 years old in April. So if you ask me what's my first memory of money, I could tell you lots of memories about money that go way back to when I was a child. And so if I go way back to when I was a child, that brings up some feelings and emotions and things that are far, far back in my life. And that's typically more, it's more dramatic, I guess. I'm not sure what the word is, but for younger people, you don't have to go back that far to experience that typically. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do this week's assignment, which has been posted, which is pretty much this assignment here. It's in Blackboard now. I'm going to ask you to interview a parent. I call it the parental interview. Now, I always get the question, can I interview my roommate? And the answer is no. If you decide that you're going to wait till the last minute and interview your roommate or a friend or a cousin, you will not get credit for this assignment. So don't do that. Don't waste your time. Well, not that it's a waste of time. It might be a very meaningful interview, and I would encourage you to do it if that's what you want to do. But if you want to get credit, you need to interview a parent or at least someone in your family who is a generation above. So it could be a grandparent. If you have living grandparents, that's an ideal interview. So you can do that. You can do your parents. You can do an aunt and uncle, but they have to be older than you. You don't do a cousin. Don't do a roommate. Don't do a neighbor, please. I mean, you're gonna tell me in the assignment who you interviewed. Okay, so let me set the table for this interview, because this interview could be one of the most challenging things you do this semester, depending on your personality. And this assignment involves potentially a good deal of emotion. And I want you to be prepared for that. I want you to handle this interview with a high level of respect and appreciation and gratitude. So what you're going to do is you're going to pick someone in your family who you respect. This is my advice. This is my instruction. This is my encouragement. This is the way I want you to do this assignment, okay? I want you to think about someone in your family that you respect, because you recognize that somehow their level of success, their level of effectiveness in managing money it's noticeable, okay? It's something that you can go to them and you can say, listen, I have this assignment. I have to interview someone. And I was instructed by my professor to select someone who I respect, someone I admire, somebody that I look up to. And that person is you. And so I'd like to ask your permission to do a short interview with you and ask you a few questions, starting with the question about your first memory of money. So let me pause there and take a breath and just let you think about what I just said as you think about the person you want to approach for this interview about their first memories of money. So you're going to tell me your story about your first memories of money, but you're also going to go and interview a parent or an uncle or a grandparent, aunt, uncle, grandparents. And it's great if they're together, but sometimes that gets a little weird. So it's probably more efficient, not probably. It'll definitely be easier if you pick one person. But if they're both there and they want to do it together, you're welcome to do that. I'm really flexible. Just don't do your roommate. Don't do your neighbor. Don't do somebody your age. It's somebody in your family who's the next generation up. And when you go to them, remember, the idea is to select someone that you look up to, you admire, you respect, and you have a sense that they know something that could help you in the context of learning how to manage money. And that's why you selected them. And I want you to tell them that, because I want them to experience your appreciation for them and your admiration of them, because that's just, it's free, right? And it's good, and it's something that you have to give them in exchange for what they're going to give to you, which is a piece of their own experience, their own knowledge, and their own story. That's what I'm asking you to extract from these people. Just like when I meet with a client or a prospective client or someone that I'm just interested in, I really like to ask these questions because I learn from them. And so that's how I wanted to set the table for you to go into this assignment. But I want to also give you a couple of warnings or admonitions, a couple of uh, things to be aware of and prepare you for this experience. So I told you that this could be a very emotional, it could be, may not be, it just kind of depends, but I want you to be prepared for the possibility that when you ask these questions that you will see listed in your assignment, um, sometimes these questions make people go back to when they were young and they experienced things that were not pleasant, that were scary, that were painful, that were hard. So, for example, I'm going to tell you a story about one of my favorite human beings in the history of my lifetime. His name is Hank. Hank is no longer with us. He was my uncle. He passed away, I think it's 4 years ago now. And he was he was the guy when I got married 40 years ago. I got married. When I got married, I took my wife to meet my family, and my mom's family is from Kentucky, Bowling Green. So we went to Kentucky. My wife got to meet Hank, and she immediately recognized that he was someone special. He really was. He was just the most positive, hardworking, loyal, committed, super nice. He was the man. And so from then on in our marriage, my wife, whenever we had a question, a challenging issue, something that required us to really think through what are we going to do about this, her response was almost always, what would Hank do? He was that guy. He was Hank. He was awesome. We all love Hank and miss him. So Hank passed. It's crazy. My dad passed. My Aunt Doris and Uncle Hank, they all passed in just within a couple of weeks of each other. It was a bad year, but they all went someplace better. And anyway, Hank was that guy. Here's the thing: when one day I had the opportunity years ago, and this story is in my book, Make Your Money Count and What Matters Most. But I had the opportunity to ask Hank the question about his first memory of money. And I'm going to tell you this story because I want you to be prepared for what's possible when you ask this question to someone else. So I asked Hank as we were on this walk. It was a beautiful, cool, crisp morning in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and we're walking out in the countryside. And I asked him the question about his first memory of money, and he told me this story. He said he remembers the very first and only time that he saw his father cry. And he got very serious. And he told me this story about how he came home from school one day when he was young. I believe he was about 10 or 11 years old. He got home from school. His father and his mother were sitting at the kitchen table, and his dad was crying. And his dad couldn't really talk at the moment. He was just too upset. And Hank learned, he discovered the story. The reason that his father was crying was because they were pig farmers. Their whole family raised pigs and sold the pigs. And in my book, I say they were cattle farmers. I did that because my editor said I should use cows instead of pigs. I wish I would have never done that, but I did. So the story that I tell, and I'll tell you another story about Farmer Joe who raises cows, and that's another story. But the truth is, Hank's family raised pigs. And so the pigs, every year they would take these pigs that they raised, and they would sell those pigs. So Hank told me this story about how they had these pigs that they were going to sell this particular year. And the broker, the pig broker, the guy that comes around and sells or pays you for the pigs that you sell, that person, he scammed them. He absconded with the pigs. He took the pigs, gave them a contract, said, we'll bring a check by in the morning or whatever. And then he left with the pigs, and they never got the money. And that was devastating. That's imagine if you had a family and a ranch and all the cost of raising, animals on a farm, the equipment, the fuel, everything, and you got one paycheck in the entire year. And that one paycheck that you get for the entire year covers all of the expenses that you have for your family, for your business, for your food, for your shelter, your taxes, everything gone. So that was the story that Hank, my Uncle Hank, told me about his first memory of money. And so there's two parts to this conversation. Uh, the first one is just the story, like what happened. Tell me what happened, and maybe in the process of telling that what happened, you're going to experience a lot of the emotion. They're going to experience a lot of the emotion from that story, from going back to that story. Maybe it's a really happy, exciting, good story. Maybe not, like in the case of my Uncle Hank. But that's part of it, is just to tell the story. And you listen to the story with respect and appreciation and attentiveness, and listen, just listen. And they will tell you the story. But then after they tell you the story, here's what becomes quite valuable. And again, I put on my Dr. Phil hat when I do this, because what I know from my experience in my professional life and my interest in people is this. So when I looked at Uncle Hank, he was an awesome guy. And I asked him, when you look back at that story, that experience, how did it shape you to where you are today? How did it impact you in terms of how you manage money today? And that's really the point that I want you to learn from the person that you select to have this interview with. I want you to learn. This is where the learning comes in, is where they get to, and sometimes, a lot of times, people have never even thought about how that first memory of money has shaped their behavior in finances over their lifetime. And, that's what happened with Hank. By me asking the question and him trusting me to tell me the story, and then allowing me to ask him the next question, the next kind of couple of questions, how do you see that experience shaping your behavior? Here's what he told me. Hank was very frugal. Like, the dude he just didn't spend money very much. He was wealthy, very successful. He was super industrious. He was really good at everything he did. He was in sales. He sold tractors. He lived in Kentucky, and it was a great place. He was such a relationship-oriented guy with such all those great qualities that come from growing up in a hardworking, work ethic, family oriented place and generation and all of that. He was all of that, and so people trusted him. And he knew what he was talking about. He did the work to know the difference between tractor A and tractor B, and which one was a better value and which one you needed on your farm to do what you want to do with the lowest cost and the best efficiency and all of that. And so he was a master of his art, but he was really, really just a master relationship manager, because he was someone who cared about people, and people trusted him. But he was frugal as he could be, which means he didn't spend money. And he told me in that conversation on that walk, he told me that he knew that was one of the issues that caused him a good deal of pain, is that he was so frugal. He couldn't spend money. He couldn't spend money because he was afraid, because of that experience with his father. He always felt like he had to save more and save more and save more. Can you imagine that? Do you see the relationship between Hank's experience, his first memory of money, and the way that he became, the way that he behaved over his lifetime in relation to money? He was so frugal, he couldn't enjoy the fruits of his labor. And that was the truth. And he was able to tell me that and say, that was That was his life. That was part of what happened as a result of that experience. And so Hank trusted me to help him with a financial plan. And one of the things I was able to do, which is something I get to do with a lot of people, because believe it or not, this is not that unusual to have an experience when you were young where you had devastation as a result of money mismanagement or something that happened around money that created fear and anxiety and made you want to be like Hank, very, very frugal because of fear of not having enough. And when that happens, typically those people end up with a whole lot of money at the end of their life, but they missed out on some of the things they could have done with that money to create a better life for themselves and the people they love. But they ended up with a pile of money because of fear. And that's what Hank was afraid of. That's what he was sharing with me. And so he made a decision in the course of doing financial planning. What happens is when I'm able, and you'll be able to do this over your lifetime as well, but when you put it all together into a financial plan, you start to see the truth about where you are financially. And instead of just having these feelings that you operate off of, you have actual data that says, you know what, you can afford to buy a new house or a new car. You can afford to go on that trip. You can afford to take your whole family with you on that really cool vacation, not just once, but every year for the rest of your life. When you get to be my age, you're looking for ways you can take what you've gained and use it to make a difference in the world. And there's so many ways to do that. But if you live in fear because you're just always afraid you're never going to have enough and you keep accumulating more and more and more, that is a dead end road. But a whole lot of people experience that. And that's what Hank was telling me. And so he made a decision. He wanted to use some of his money to invest in memories for the family. And so what he did, he bought a nice piece of land in a beautiful place on the lake at Barren River Reservoir, and he built a beautiful house, and that house is still there. And every summer I get to go and enjoy that house with my family, and we use their boat, and we live on the lake, and we enjoy this awesome place. And every time I'm there, I think about Hank, and I think about that conversation that we had that day when we went for a walk about his first memories of money. And as you can imagine, this conversation that I'm asking you to have with someone in your family is, again, potentially something that could be emotional, something that could resurrect some painful memories. And on the other hand, it could be something very different. But at the end of the conversation, I'm hoping that you and the person that you have this conversation with can discover some things that may be very helpful for them. And I have no doubt that just you asking these questions and listening, if you're present with this person who you admire, who you choose to have this interview with, if you're willing to sit and listen and learn, this could be one of the most important conversations you have this semester, this year. And in the context of money, it could be one of the things that really shifts your way of thinking. And one of my goals always as a teacher is to challenge the way that you think about things, because that is where the rubber meets the road. If you think about things in a way that is in alignment with reality, then you can start to change your behavior in a way that will make a big difference in terms of the outcomes in your life. And, the context of this course is to help you make wise choices with money so that you make a difference in your own life and the life of the people you love. And when you get to be my ripe old age of 60, you'll be in a position where you have lots of options that you would otherwise not have. So I want to wish you the very best of luck as you go forward in this week's assignment. It's, like I said, one of my favorites. So thank you, Ania, for your comment. I think you said a similar experience happened with your aunt and your uncle. Maybe they're the ones you'll want to interview, because if that experience is similar to Uncle Hank's, you may be blessed by what they share with you, and they may be blessed by you choosing. Are they? I'm not even sure if they're still alive, but um, anyway, I appreciate that comment. Okay, like I said, I lost all of the comments that you guys posted earlier, so I am going to, let's see, it's 10:45. I am going to try and get back into my iPad and see if there's anything I need to touch on before I let you go. I think I'm going to let you go early today. And let's see. So hopefully you guys are jumping into your financial plan, your Bayrock. You know how to log in. You know how to, you've already set up your plan. Most of you, I get an email when you hit the little complete button, and we went over that last week. So if you're sitting here and you're not sure, in week, what are we in, week number 4? We're in week number 4. Yes, week number 4. If you're sitting here watching this on YouTube or Facebook and you're not sure what I'm talking about the little complete button in your financial plan, you will want to go back and watch last week's lesson, because you should be, to be where you need to be right now in week 4, you need to have set up your financial plan using the Bayrock financial planning portal designed by Right Capital. Hopefully you've downloaded the app. It's available in it's available on iOS and Android platforms, and it's a very powerful little piece of technology. The more you put into your financial plan, the more accurate a picture you're going to have. Now, listen, I know most of you're just getting started, and your financial plan is probably not going to be hugely valuable. What is going to be hugely valuable for you, though, is learning what you need to learn about financial planning. And so we've chosen an approach to teach you those things. And the approach that we've chosen is to select the very best financial planning software available. That's why I invested in this financial planning software for my company, Bayrock. And I wanted to be able to make this software available to you, not just during this semester, but for as long as you want to use it. You'll be able to continue to build and manage your financial plan. Now, again, I know that may not be hugely valuable to you right now, but there'll come a time in your life when it's going to be very handy, like having a Swiss Army knife in your pocket or something like that. Just a toolbox. And so the things that you're going to learn this semester will be valuable. And I hope that by now you're starting to recognize that by building a financial plan, you're getting to see the way things work in the financial planning arena. So good luck with that. Most of you have done a great job. If you're struggling, I would suggest you jump into Group Me and get a little nudge, or go back and watch previous lessons. So yeah, this list, I posted this last week, but it's just a list of all the things that will be in your financial plan. But you can find those when you log into your financial plan. Just do a little, spend a little time, look around, play with it. I would probably encourage you not to start entering new data cards all around your financial plan. You have access to hundreds of data cards. Because I wanted you to see what's in a financial plan. But if you start to add all these data cards, you will end up with some things that'll go very odd and unexplainable in your financial plan. And I probably won't have time to come and help you fix that as we go through each of the lessons. So wait until after the semester, and then you can experiment any way you want in your financial plan. But for now, if you would please just follow the assignments week by week. We will build your financial plan, and I promise you, you will learn things that will be very valuable. But this week, it's all about the interview. First, memories of money. So I want to wish you the very best. I'm going to take a minute and see if anyone has any comments or questions before we go. I apologize for today's technical challenges. I hope the live stream worked well, and I'm not seeing any questions. So today is Tuesday, 7th of February, year of our Lord 2023, and this will end this week's lecture on first memories of money. And this is Personal Finance at the University of Houston, the Bauer College of Business. And I'm Jim Munchback, about to sign off. So I'm going to end the broadcast on Facebook and the YouTube now. And then I will come back to the Zoom meeting and check again for any questions, comments, and I'm going to finish